What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be reviewing Port Adelaide's round 1 clash against the Gold Coast Suns that happened on Saturday night. A big game to kick off 2020 at Metricon. No fans, nobody but the 44 players in and around the ground and the coaching staff. It was a very eerie, weird atmosphere, although there's not many fans at the Gold Coast games anyway. But nonetheless, it was an odd game to watch in terms of no atmosphere and everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks. But we did get the game underway, and Port Adelaide did get the job done by 47 points in what was a pretty exciting first half for Port Adelaide, but in the second half it wasn't exactly the greatest spectacle to watch in terms of a footy game. But we're going to go into detail and review it and see exactly who stood out for the team and what got us across the line on the night. Yes, it was a very interesting game. As I said, it was going to be one of those games where it was one of those danger games for Port, really, because Gold Coast had some fine form from the Marsh series, as did we. And you come into the game, round one's always got a bit of uncertainty. And from right at the get-go, the Gold Coast Suns were pushing and they were actually playing some good footy, putting the pressure on Port's defence and repeated inside 50s. And they did kick the first goal. And I thought, well, this is a game. We're on. It's going to be a good one for the night, and both teams are going to shoot out. But as soon as Gold Coast kicked that first goal, Port Adelaide snapped into business, and it was pretty much over from that first quarter. Port Adelaide kicked the next next 6 goals, to be honest. Created a 31-point lead. And that all kicked off with Mitch Georgiadis kicking his first goal in AFL footy for the Power. So that was an exciting time. Travis Boak out of the middle was simply exceptional, but we'll get to that in a minute with Boak Watch. But it was the younger guys were standing up and they were doing their part, but it was more so the older boys that were looking fit and firing. Justin Westhoff pinch hitting in the ruck with Lysette with a good combination. Brad Ebert up forward was exceptional. I thought, especially early on, he had plenty of shots on goal. And Robbie Gray was creating opportunities throughout the night. And whilst Robbie doesn't have to hit the scoreboard, he surely creates him with many score involvements. And if that's the role he's willing to play with this game, he'll have games here or there where he kicks 4 or 5 goals and just has those Robbie Gray days. But if he's playing that kind of role, then he's going to set up players like Rosie, players like Georgiadis, Ebert, Butters, and everyone else that's in and around the forward 50, Todd Marshall as well. And everyone will have an even spread of goals. And once Charlie Dixon comes back into the side, it's going to be an even better looking forward line and more dangerous. I did mention Todd Marshall there. He looked like he had a spring in his step. He was just exceptional, I thought, last night. He was one of those players that stood up forward. He knew he had a role to play, especially without Charlie in. He was one of those, it was the tall forward, he was the big man, and he had a few set shots, took a few contested marks. But what impressed me the most was his movement. He's moving up the ground, creating opportunity, and not only to be a link up at the wing, his ability to run back inside 50 and then create another target to have a second or third effort in that play was a huge improvement on what he's been able to do in the past. And it's been a slow build up for Todd. We all know that, but his movement is what really impressed me. And he kicked a couple of goals, and he just finished off the team's good work and his ball movement from the middle of the ground, where Rockcliffe and Travis Boak put on a midfield masterclass. And Rockcliffe looks like he's found an extra spring in his step. He was tackling, he was moving the ball freely, he was hitting targets, which was good to see. Connor Rosie in the middle as well. It was just a collective performance, and the Gold Coast Suns never really had an answer for that. And I did fear that the Gold Coast would come into the game looking like they could really push us to the end, but it never was likely after that 4-goal spread in the first quarter by Port. And the Suns fans will be a little bit disappointed with that, but I think Port Adelaide's overall performance just crushed any Suns' hopes, and I did like that. Our ability to keep attacking, keep winning the footy, and not letting the Suns breathe around the ground. We pushed them wide. We didn't let them come through the corridor. They had no run coming from their defensive 50, and our repeated entries inside 50 just made them crack. And I think while there's a few improvements I would be making in terms of who's presenting at different times for Port, a lot of the time we're actually trying to hit Robbie Gray. Can't hit him on the head. Robbie would be a little bit annoyed with that entry and that hit up target, especially where they're aiming. It's the right option, when he's deep one-on-one. You put out his feet, he's beating Collins hands down. And we saw that in the first quarter, his ability to change directions without even his opponent knowing that's just pure talent. And I said it on Twitter, like, that's talent that I won't see in 2 lifetimes, let alone Robbie's 1. So that's Robbie Gray for you. And I think overall, collectively, it's one of those days. You take it, you take the win, and you move on. Yes, that's right. It is time for Boat Watch, where I focus purely on the performance of Travis Boat because he is my favourite player. And tell you what, he didn't disappoint. He's going to make this segment very, very popular, I think, because he is just one of those guys that consistently puts in an effort week in, week out, and he did it again. He lifted the team from the middle. He got the first 3 clearances, which ended up being score involvement. His second and third efforts were awesome. His link-up play, was sensational. And I think his running power is going to be an absolute weapon. You can't tag the bloke. I think they tagged him in the second half. He still ended up with 25 possessions at 76% efficiency. 7 clearances in that with 4 tackles and 6 score involvements. Yeah, Travis Boat performance right there. He just got the boys, lifted them up. And it's like, he's like a fine wine. Just gets better with age, and it's pure joy to watch. There were a few injuries from last night's game. It was a little disappointing to see that once it started happening, we're dropping like flies. And Hamish Hartlett was the unfortunate one, I thought. He was looking good, hitting targets from defence. And we just needed that. We need that across the half-back line. And he unfortunately looks like he's done a quad, which could be a few weeks. And with the uncertainty of the season even going ahead for round 2, it might be a blessing in disguise for him. He can recover from that when we eventually do come back. If we do come back for the rest of the season, he'll be good to go. Brad Ebert as well with his knee. Didn't look great. Did come back onto the ground, but looked uncomfortable the whole time and just couldn't move. Pau Pepper had a stinger with the shoulder. He'll be completely fine. He's a tough nut. So, yeah, Riley Bonner as well missing out and Leonard coming in, which I think a lot of fans actually took quite happy. And, you don't want to see players injured, but Bonner wasn't in my best 22. And to see Leonard come in, have a go, he looked all right across certain stages. But, yeah, I think overall, if you look at our defensive unit, the way we collectively held the pressure early on, and our ability to shut down any sort of forward movement from the Suns just shows that our defence is probably one of the best in the league. Jonas leading from the back. And how good did it look to have number 1 back on a Guernsey in an AFL game for Port Adelaide? I was loving life. And with Tom Cleary down there as well. Trent McKenzie was the big one for me. He looked comfortable and solid one-on-one, and his ability to move the ball from defence to half forward. And I think with McKenzie, he's got a lot of attributes that would help him, not only with our skill set, but also defending. As I said, looked comfortable one-on-one. He was competing in the packs, and he was able to get up there with the taller defenders. So I was really impressed with him, and I was impressed with the whole performance, really. It was a good night for Port Adelaide and their fans. Obviously, it's tough at the moment. We can't be there supporting them. It's going to be even tougher next week if we do get the showdown to go ahead, that we're not going to be there supporting them in the prison bars. But it was just great to see everyone involved on social media, supporting the boys. And, yeah, it felt like a real community effort last night. And watching that documentary as well. I'll get onto that later on. But that was exceptional to watch. And it was just a good night overall. Thanks for watching, Port fans. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for plenty more Port Adelaide content and AFL content coming your way across what is a big question mark on this season. But nonetheless, I'll be around, hopefully making some content and trying to ease the load while we wait for some more footy. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Anthony, and as always, come the pair.